Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Center for Teaching and Learning podcast. Today, we are excited to have Olivia Lackey from our library. She is our faculty librarian, and she's got a lot of good information for faculty to be able to help our students, especially in research. But she's going to tell us what they offer, what we know, what we don't know, and she'll go from there.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm definitely really excited to talk about research, especially as it pertains to things now. Like in the last couple years, certainly increasing over the last few years, we hear a lot from faculty that students are just missing a lot of foundational research skills. They can't identify different kinds of sources. They don't have an understanding of what actually makes a source credible or how they might be able to actually judge or evaluate that source for credibility themselves. And they also have a tough time just thinking about what the information seeking process entails, like even from start to finish. And there's a couple reasons probably for this. A lot of students are coming with just very minimal actual research experience, whether that's because they just don't do a lot of research in school anymore or that research looks a little bit different. One of the things that we've heard from people before is that students have just come to believe that research is getting a list of links from their teacher, clicking on those links, going directly to one website that tells them the information that they need. They don't have to think through what it means to search, how to search, where to go to actually find information. They click a link, they get it. They haven't really had to think about it at all. Other times, students don't have a lot of library experience in general, and this is, of course, a larger issue. A lot of people don't know what libraries do, what they offer, what a librarian even does. And so with schools downsizing or getting rid of their libraries entirely or their librarians, they might just think of libraries as the place where the books go. And that's where they are, and that's all that there is. They don't make the connection between a library as a space for research assistance or for people to help, like a library as a resource for helping them with their assignments. And so if they don't have that in their brains, they don't even think of the library in general. I think also when it comes to how we do personal research, things have changed a lot, especially with social media and search engines and even AI, right? Where you put in the thing that you want into the search function and then you just get spit out a bunch of things, but the quality varies wildly, right? When we talk about the concept of finding things on the internet in our intro to college sessions, we talk a lot about how it's the Wild West out there, where it's you're on your own and you're just being inundated with things all the time. How to gauge the quality of the information that you find, because people will post online for any reason. They don't have to be truthful. They don't have to be honest. They don't actually have to be talking with any real authority. They can just say whatever they want and they can pass it off as being true. And, even with AI tools, it's they're black boxes. You can't always know the information that's being spit back at you, where that came from necessarily. You don't know what they're trained on, so you don't know what information or content they're using to build that answer for you. And so without that kind of assistance or those skills that are already in place, students can be immediately overwhelmed at the prospect of having to do research for classes. At least that's kind of what it seems like. They don't even really know what a database is, because when they do their research, they go online and everything's online. It's very flat. So differentiating between a website versus a database versus even an ebook, there's no way to really make that connection. They haven't held the thing in their hands, maybe, or they don't really know what makes those sources different from each other. They just know that they go online, they're using the internet to access a database. They don't know what that means. So there's just a lot. There's a lot of things, obviously, with research now, and a lot of things working against students and therefore working against faculty, right? Because you all have so much that you already have to do and accomplish that it's hard to think about needing to address these foundational gaps. You don't want to work backwards. You don't want to take away from your already structured out plan to have to account for oh my gosh, my students don't
know how
even
to research.
Yeah, they don't know how to research.
Yeah.
They don't know where to go. And you don't have the time to work with each individual student on here's what this looks like, here's where to go, here's how to guarantee the quality of what you're finding. And students don't even know necessarily how to ask those questions until they start and they realize they don't even know what they're doing. And so the library is a great place where, faculty can come or send their students to get a lot of research assistance. That's literally one of the main things that we do. There's a lot of staff members at the library, but there are 4 librarians specifically, and we are trained in helping with research. And so we are basically there from the early stages all the way through the end of the research process. We don't necessarily help students write their papers. We can't always help them decide their topic, but we can help them really narrow in on an aspect of the topic they want to look at. If their topic's too broad, we can help them refine their searches. We can help them strategize the right search terms and keywords. We can help them know where to go. There's a lot of databases out there. We have over 50 databases that they can choose from. And so if they've never seen any of those, how could they possibly know which one's going to be the best fit? We can help them figure that out. And then just helping them build out effective searches. A lot of the battle is trying to decide what the right terms are, how to use those in combination to actually get the information that you find or that you need, right? So, and citations, of course.
Oh,
so
that's
all the way through the end.
big.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
big. To correctly cite web links is what I have a big problem with.
Yes. Because, students, I also don't know
They think
how
that's
much.
it.
Yeah. They just, they're like, well, here's the
the
page.
link.
Here's the
Here's the
thing
link.
I found.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, there's the importance of needing to correctly source or, provide the source, correctly say where it is that you got that information from so that people can find it again. And that, I think, is also not often instilled in students. Because again, in theory, if you think about how they received a link to get that information, their instructor probably already has that link. They don't have to be like, oh, I got to show my work. I got to show where I found this.
That's right. In the
They
link.
don't have to, they
In
don't have
the
to
link.
think about it. Mhm.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, here it is.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it is. But I don't want to say the art of citation, but citations in general, that is
Absolutely.
not often instilled upon students, especially what we've been seeing recently.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I know you've got more to talk
Oh,
about.
no,
but
that's, yeah.
From a
Ask me
faculty's
questions.
perspective, because I've
Mhm.
used your skill and it's been wonderful with my students, especially if I have to miss a class, it's a great time to send them to you if that works for your schedule.
We're happy to tap in. That's kind of what we like to do is be that thing of when you don't have the time to do it, tap us in and we can take care of a lot of that.
So what recommendation would you give faculty to accomplish this with the students as far as assignments and timing in the semester?
Yeah.
To what's the best practices could the faculty have to make the
good
best use
question.
of your talent? We've got 4 faculty in the library.
Yeah.
That's crazy. How many college libraries have 4 faculty librarians?
It's
that seems like a lot to me.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, yeah. It's, and again, they're dwindling, so it really is a huge
we're
benefit.
lucky.
I mean, I think so, but I'm glad you think so too.
Oh no, I do.
But yeah, definitely when faculty are thinking about providing students with places to go or strategies for doing that research, I mean, there's ways big and small, right? So small things can be reminding students, even at the beginning of the semester, we're going to be working on a research assignment later in the semester. If you haven't done research before, don't forget, there's librarians that are available. Even just getting students into the library. We actually had an instructor this past semester who, it was a newer assignment. It was a very simple one where they just had to go into one of our databases, print out an article that they found that they could argue with in class, and then have us sign off on it. And so a lot of students didn't necessarily need us to show them where to go for they didn't need us to show them the databases to use. They had already found their article as long as we could verify that it came from one of our databases and sign off on it. But it gave them FaceTime with us. They saw us. They knew that they could ask us
I
things.
can come back. Mhm.
Right? So then they're oh yeah, that was great. That was so helpful. That was so easy.
Okay.
Other students came in and were I don't even know where to start. And then we could actually work one-on-one with them. So it was a very simple assignment. It didn't involve a lot of actual research, but it was okay, you got to know at least one database and you got to go talk to a librarian.
Okay.
And
And
that-
require that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was something. We also have, of course, our LUI sessions, library use instruction sessions. And those we find are generally most effective when we can tie those sessions to a particular research assignment. So if you're getting ready to assign or talk about or start that particular research assignment in your classes, getting us in there to have a little library use instruction session around that time makes it really just a lot more helpful for students. It's immediately more relevant. They'll probably keep it in their heads more than if you have a session earlier in the semester, because there's so much, right? They can't keep track of everything. They'll lose it. But
and you guys are really good. The library is really good about assessing what you do. Mm-hmm. You send me a form about that, and I'm going to steal that from something else I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what kind of feedback are you getting from that assessment in regard to research as far as the benefits from it?
That's such a great question. That. Yes, I just went through and did our assessment not too long ago. We have found that a lot of students, especially those who haven't had a lot of library experience or haven't used it for research before, are finding that by the end of these sessions, they largely very much agree with the sentiment that they've learned a lot about what the library can do to help them. And we also ask them to provide what are 2 things that you learned? And a lot of the time they will write things like, I didn't even know that we had this many databases, or I didn't know how to filter a search. I've never seen this thing before. I didn't know libraries had libguides. I didn't know. So there's almost always something.
Yes.
And so they generally are able to, it's very rare to find a situation where a student is like, nah, didn't really learn anything.
Okay. Okay.
So
that's
generally, yeah.
So we've got about 5 minutes left. Olivia, one thing, you mentioned LibGuides, and it's one of my favorite things. So can you just kind of briefly talk about LibGuides? I mean, you've done a great job on the research part of it, and obviously we'll be reaching out to you. But can you give us, you've got a lot of LibGuides. Can you just give a little plug in for your LibGuides?
Absolutely. I will plug my LibGuides. I love LibGuides. For those that don't know, LibGuides are basically just let me see.
Can I give you my perspective?
Go ahead.
While you're thinking that, because from a faculty's perspective, I had all these resources that I would tell my students about. Obviously, they're on the syllabus, and they never went to them. And I thought, when I realized what you guys did with LibGuides, I just put that link right in my Canvas. I tell them that all my favorite things, research, MLA format, how to access the St. Louis Business Journal, they put that together, and Olivia does a great job putting it together and showing and telling them, and I just keep sending them to you. So it's kind of like a little treasure chest.
Yes, I was going to say, it's like a treasure chest. It's a repository. Maybe that's the word I was thinking of.
Yes, that's a good one.
And they are collaborative, exactly. We have, of course, we want to put our library resources on there, but it's a one-stop shop for where you can send your students, here are the resources that you want them to access, and then here are the resources that are available through the library, as well as tutorial videos we can film and put on there. We can put recommendations for different tips and tricks for using the databases on there. So they're just basically anything that you might want that you think would be helpful for your students.
The tools that you use in class for the students. And then lastly, you have 2 list questions. Questions to answer in regard to why is it most complicated?
Yeah. So we do have people that will say that research is very complicated and the information seeking process is super complicated. And that can be very true. We find that a lot of students are used to frictionless searching, where it's the very easy, just I go to one place, I search for one thing, I get inundated with information. It's all here. I haven't had to think about it. And so when you're looking at a library database, you're like, well, I'm not receiving these rapid fire, I think of X, where you do your search and then it's just here's, I don't even know, billions of tweets about that one thing that you looked up. But doing a search in a database is a whole different situation. Things are laid out differently. It takes a little bit more intention. So I definitely understand when people think that it's very complicated. But the underlying skill is something that can be developed just with messing around with it. The more research you do in a database, the easier it will be to see.
Anything else, practice.
Yeah,
practice makes it easier.
And knowing that, I need to use filters, and these are the filters that will help me the most. Even if interfaces change, technology stuff changes all the time. They want to optimize, they want to change things, make them look newer, sleeker. That can throw people too. But generally with these kinds of places that you can go, just knowing how to think about what you need, that's the skill that actually is potentially the most challenging. Yeah,
teaching them to think.
Exactly. That's the piece that if you develop that skill, then any kind of other things will be a little bit easier too.
Well, Olivia, I can't thank you enough for what you all do. You are a treasure chest for us. I mean, and I think the more we use the library and the more we faculty ask for help, we may not know all the answers, but this is what I want to accomplish and tell me what we need to do that. So
I thank you so much for having me. Yeah, anything, people, truly, we are so available. We are so ready, and we want to collaborate so much with you guys. We're working on new things all the time. We've just started an online library use instruction pilot for certain classes for online students that don't get in-person sessions.
Good deal.
So these are available. They're out there. Reach out to us. Reach out to me. And we want to collaborate, make things easier for you and your students, and make sure that they're actually getting these foundational skills that are going to serve them for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. Thanks again. Yeah. Thanks again. And thank you all for listening in. Stay tuned to the next episode of the CTL podcast. See you next time.